Very good morning, students. I am audible to everyone. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, fine. So 32 came. Then can we start?
Yes, sir.
Can you able to see my PowerPoint presentation? I hope you can see my PowerPoint presentation.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Now, now can you able to see?
No, sir. No, sir.
Can you able to see now?
Yes, sir.
That's fine. So we will discuss about power consuming and power producing plants where we are using the thermodynamics principles. And we started with macroscopic versus microscopic viewpoint. So in chemical thermodynamics, they go with the microscopic viewpoint. But in general mechanical thermodynamics, we will use macroscopic viewpoint. So macroscopic in the sense without consideration of molecules. So in microscopic view, we will consider the changes happening in the molecular level. But in macroscopic view, we will consider all the molecules as an object or an what to say system. Right. So we started. So what is the thermodynamics and versus kinetics? So what is thermodynamics? So it's one branch of science. Then basics. So we want to know what is system, what is surrounding, and what is universe. So system is region where we focus our attention, right? Then surrounding the surrounding is the rest of the universe, right? So if you consider a block of any matters as a system, the immediate matter we call as surrounding. Then this both the system and surrounding will come together as a universe, right? So These are the basics of thermodynamics. Then we have three types of systems. One is the open system, then closed system, then isolated system. In open system, we can transfer both the energy as well as mass. So energy in the sense maybe the mechanical energy or thermal energy. Matter in the sense mass. We can add the quantity of the system. So we can if you can transfer both the mass and energy, that can be called as an open system. Say for example, a coffee in a cup, a coffee or tea in a cup, called as an open system. So we can add mass as well as we can transfer. We can add or remove mass. Also, we can add or remove energy. That may be heat energy. Then the next type is closed system. So we can't add mass in this closed system, but we can transfer the energy. That may be heat energy. Say for example, a tea or coffee in a closed container. A tea or coffee in a closed container, or say piston cylinder arrangement. Say piston cylinder arrangement. So we can't add consider this piston cylinder arrangement in a closed system. So we can't add mass or remove mass, say matter, but we can transfer heat energy. So if you heat the surrounding, the system's heat will increase. So we can add the energy. So if you cool the surroundings, we can remove the heat. So we can remove the heat energy. So that is called a closed system. Then isolated system. So say for example, closed vacuum thermos flask. So we can't add neither matter nor energy. We can't add matter and energy. So that is called isolated system. So some more systems are available, but we don't need to bother about that. So these are the three basic sides of systems. So open system, closed system, then isolated system. So the matter. So matter is easy to understand and includes atoms, ions, electrons. So you know, system is considered of matters. So the matters also known as atoms, ions, or electrons, etc. So energy may be transferred. In the sense we can add or we can remove to the system as heat, electromagnetic radiation, etc. So we can add or remove the energy in the mode of heat, or in the mode of electromagnetic radiation, or in the mode of any other mechanical works. So we can transfer energy. So here we refer energy as an thermal energy, electromagnetic radiation, or mechanical energy. Then in thermodynamics, the two modes of transfer of energy to the system considered are heat and work. So we can have the modes of heat, the modes of transfer. So one is heat transfer, another one is work transfer. So we can also transfer heat as well as we can also transfer work. So heat and work are modes of transfer of energy and not energy itself. So we are not transferring energy alone. So we are transferring heat and work both together. So we are transferring heat and work both together. Once inside the system, a part which come via work and a part which come via heat cannot be distinguished. Right. So this will both are linked together. Right. Heat and work were linked together. Before the start of the process and after the process is completed, the terms heat and work are not relevant. So before the start of the process, the heat and work quantity will vary, and after the completion of the process will be changed. Here we are noticing that one. So before process after process. The both heat and work cannot be same. From the above, it is clear that bodies contain internal energy and not heat. So all the matters initially has its own internal energy. So, but we are calling that as a heat energy, right? So we want to clear about what is internal energy and what is heat. That we are calling work. So internal energy is different and heat, that is work, is different. So all the matter will have internal energy. Matter when added to the system brings along with its some energy. So if you add some matter with the system, that will add some more internal energy. If you add some more matter, that will give its own internal energy to the system. So the system will gain the internal energy. The energy density in the incoming matter may be higher or lower than the matter already present in the system. So you no need to bother about that. So we are adding a mass. We are adding a matter into any already existing system. So system has its own internal energy. But we are going to add the mass will have its own internal energy. So we are adding internal energy to the system. Then the system will gain the internal energy again. So don't need to bother about the adding matters may have higher or lower internal energy with the system. Then processing thermodynamics. So these are some processing thermodynamics. So here we are given a brief listing of kinds of processes. Say isothermal process, then isobaric process, isochoric process, reversible process, cyclic process, adiabatic process. So isothermal in the sense a constant temperature. Isobaric in the sense constant pressure. Isochoric in the sense constant volume. Then reversible process available, then cyclic process, then adiabatic process available. So in adiabatic process, change in temperature will be 0. Then the combination of these above all can be possible. So in the last class we stopped here. So for the various processes, the heat transfer, what are the equation of state, what is work done, and what is the PV diagram of the process. So first, what is isothermal process? So isothermal process is a constant temperature process. So isothermal, thermal means temperature, iso means constant. So isothermal in the sense constant temperature process. Before that, we have the pressure, volume, temperature, internal energy, heat. So these are the points, functions, properties of the systems. So before that, we have to know what are these all. So pressure, what is pressure, what is volume, and what is the temperature. So these are some kind of properties of a system. Properties of a system. Pressure is a property, volume is a property, temperature is a property, specific density is a property, specific volume is a property. So specific heat capacity is a property. So we will look at that later. So before that, you just consider pressure is a property, volume is a property, then temperature is a property. So likewise, we have lots of properties for a system. So here we are only considering these 3 properties for an isothermal system. So just take an isothermal system. So we have expansion process, we have compression process. So if pressure is considered, we can expand. So say consider an air. So we can expand the air we can also compress the air. For a compressor, so we discussed what is the working principle of a compressor, an air compressor. So what is the working principle of air compressor? So the air gets compressed inside the compression chamber by some doing mechanical work. So that is called compression. So in a piston cylinder arrangement, yes, piston will have some kinds of volume. So in that volume, so the piston will have air. So if you compress the air, you can say that as a compression. If you compress the air by the piston cylinder arrangement, that can be called as a compression process. So after the fire, after spark plug ignition, the gas inside the cylinder will get expansion, right? So the compressed air will get expansion. That is called a expansion process. So in all the types of processes, we have expansion process. Also we have compression process. If you compress the air, so pressure during compression, pressure gets increase. If you compress the air, the pressure gets increased. But in expansion, the pressure gets decreased, but volume gets increased, right? So compare these two, pressure versus volume. So during compression, the pressure inside the gas will increase, but the volume of the portion where the gas is covered will decrease. The volume will decrease. The pressure will increase, volume will decrease during compression process. In expansion process, that is opposite. So the pressure will decrease. So compressed air will expand. So the pressure inside the container will decrease, but the volume is increased. So this is called the expansion process and compression process. Yes, I think you know about this in detail. So this brief, we go with the isothermal. What is isothermal process? So we have isothermal expansion, we have isothermal compression. So in isothermal expansion process, so consider a piston cylinder arrangement for all these processes. Consider a piston cylinder arrangement for all these processes. For isothermal expansion, heat energy will decrease or increase. In expansion, heat energy is like we will come to this later. So in isothermal expansion, the temperature will be, if isothermal in the sense, temperature will be constant. Isobaric in the sense, pressure will be constant. Both isobaric expansion and isobaric compression, the pressure will be constant. In isochoric, volume will be constant, but in isochoric we have only compression and expansion process. Volume will be constant in isochoric process. In adiabatic process, Q will be 0. Change in internal energy, Q will be 0. So we will look at that one by one later. So isothermal expansion, pressure will decrease, temperature is constant, and volume is increasing. So the equation of state, the important point we have to learn, equation of state. For an ideal gas, the equation PV is equal to mu RT or N RT. So just the equation PV is equal to mu RT or nRT. So from that equation, we have derived this equation of state for an processes. If it is isothermal process, the temperature is constant. So PV equal to mu RT. Here T is available. So the temperature is constant. So we can get the PV equal to constant. So this is for the equation of state of isothermal process. So for isobaric process, the volume is constant. Sorry, the isobaric process, the volume is pressure is constant. So pressure P will be constant. So we can have V and T here. We can have V and T here. So T by V will become constant, or V by T will become constant, right? So for isochoric process, again PV is equal to mu or T. So here volume is constant. So PV V will be constant one. So we are bringing temperature down. Then V this side. So we can have P by T as constant. P by T is equal to constant. So this is the equation of state for isochoric process. For an adiabatic process, the equation of state will become PV power gamma equal to constant. So this you want to know the equations of state. So for an isothermal process, PV is equal to constant. For an isobaric process, V by T is equal to constant. For an isochoric process, P by T is equal to constant. For an adiabatic process, PV power gamma is equal to constant. So these are the equation of state for different kinds of processes. Then also you have to know, as for an isothermal process, the temperature will be constant. For an isobaric process, pressure will be constant. Both the case expansion and compression processes. For an isochoric process, volume will be constant. Then adiabatic process, there will be no heat transfer, right? Say for in isothermal expansion, temperature is constant, pressure will decrease, volume will increase, and equation of state will be PV is equal to constant. Then we can derive the work done W of an isothermal expansion process. So we can derive that work done this formula in later. Also we can derive work done W for the isothermal compression process. Also we can derive work done for an isobaric expansion process, isobaric compression process, isochoric. So in work done W will be 0 for isochoric processes. So there is no process in the isochoric process. Isochoric in the sense volume will be constant. So we can't expect work done W in this isochoric process. So we will see an example in the later. So also we can derive work done W for an adiabatic expansion process, also for an adiabatic compression process. So these formulas we will derive that later. Just know the equation of state for various processes. So PV is equal to constant, isothermal process, that may be isothermal expansion or maybe the isothermal compression. So V by T is equal to constant for an isobaric process, that may be for expansion process or compression process. So here in isobaric process, isobaric expansion process, the temperature will increase and volume also will increase. So we are in expanding the air with a constant pressure. So we can get increased temperature. Also we can increase the volume. We are increasing the volume. During expansion we will increase. The expansion will increase the volume. During compression we will decrease the volume. Here also the expansion increase the volume, compression decrease the volume. Then so here we will volume will be constant in isochoric process. Here also during expansion we will increase the volume. During compression we will decrease the volume. But the temperature during isothermal expansion, the temperature will be constant. But in isobaric expansion, the temperature of the temperature or internal energy of the system will increase. During isobaric compression, the temperature or internal energy of the system will decrease. So here heat energy here we are calling temperature. So the temperature may be called considered as an heat energy. Temperature, so this will be a constant for an isobaric expansion. We can get increased temperature of the system. For an isobaric compression, we can decrease the temperature of a system. Also for an isobaric expansion, we can increase the temperature. For an isobaric compression, we can decrease the temperature. For an adiabatic also, we can during adiabatic expansion, we can decrease the we are decreasing the temperature. But in adiabatic compression, we are increasing the temperature. So just go through this. What are the processes? What are the isothermal thermodynamic processes? So these are some kinds of thermodynamic processes. So this is PV diagram. So we can plot a pressure versus volume diagram for a system. So in this isothermal expansion, say here P1 V1. So we'll look at that later, I think. Here you can see. Can you able to see the page? Anyone of you? Some special thermodynamic processes. Students,
Yes, sir.
what is your screen now?
Processing TTE.
Process thermal. Repeat now. Repeat once again.
Processes in TD.
Oh, you can only see the. Can you able to link this HTTP page? Here we are. I added one physics web page, physics.bu.edu.
Yes, sir. URL.
Yes, if you click that, I am clicking, but it guiding to some web page. Can you able to see my web page?
No, sir.
And wait a minute. So I will add the web page here. Can you able to see now some special thermodynamic processes? The page.
Yes, sir.
Yes, fine.
Yes, sir.
So here is an graphical representation of various processes of thermodynamics. So some special thermodynamic processes are described here. So we can add the heat energy. Also, we can add or remove the heat energy here in a volume, constant volume process, and constant pressure process, and constant temperature process. So these are the properties of the processes. So pressure for an system, the pressure will be there, the volume will be there, the temperature will be there, then internal energy will be there. Also, we can the transfer of heat energy and change in internal energy, then work transfer will be available by these processes or thermodynamic processes. So assume So this is a pressure PV diagram of a thermodynamic system. So these are molecules. The molecules of an air will collide together, also with the surroundings. So this is an ideal gas. So this pressure inside the container is 200 kilopascal. So in so volume of this container is 2 liter, and temperature inside this container is 400 Kelvin. So internal energy becomes 600 joule. So can we see? So what will be the heat and heat change, and what will be the change in internal energy, and what will be the work transfer if you if the process in isochoric process or isobaric process or isothermal process. Say for an you know what is isothermal process? Isothermal process, the temperature will be constant, right? So the temperature will be a constant. Can we have the temperature as constant? So here we are adding the heat energy. So heat energy in joules. We check volume. If you adding so if constant volume. So this is a constant volume process. So the volume V will becomes constant. Also pressure will increase. So if you add 400 joule of heat energy to the system, we can get increased pressure, but we don't have the change in volume. So that is called a constant volume process. Also we can say this. So this is the initial stage. So if you remove the volume, if you remove the heat energy in constant volume process, so we can have the constant volume. So we are decreasing the pressure. So this is a constant volume process. See from starting we are seeing that isothermal process. So if you in isothermal process, if you add 400 joules of heat to the system, this will be happen. Again, I am repeating. If you add 400 joule of heat to the system in a constant temperature process, let's say isothermal process, this process will happen. So we can decrease the pressure. Also, we are increasing the volume. Say we are decreasing the pressure. We are decreasing the pressure, and we are increasing the volume in an isothermal process. So in an isobaric process, say pressure is constant. So here we are. If you add heat energy to the system in an isobaric process, what will happen? Yes, pressure will be same. Pressure is constant, but we are increasing the temperature. In an isochoric process, we see in an isochoric process, volume is constant, so the pressure will increase if you add heat, or if you remove heat, the pressure will decrease, but there is no change in volume. For an isobaric process, if you add heat, the volume gets increased, and if you remove heat, the volume gets decreased, but there is no change in pressure. Also, for an isothermal process, if you add heat energy, both the pressure will gets decreased and volume will gets increased. If you remove the heat energy to the system in an isothermal process, the reverse will happen. We can increase the pressure. Also, we will decrease the volume. So this is the PV diagram of a system. Also, we can we can see how the heat energy we are heat energy to the system added or removed. Here we reduce the heat energy, so minus 400 joule. So there is no change in internal energy of the system, but work is 400 joule in a constant isothermal process. So here we remove the work energy, heat energy. So by seeing this page, we can get more understand about the what are all the thermodynamic processes. So in general, we have a isothermal process, isobaric process, then isochoric process. So this is a PV diagram. Each and every in this simulation, you can investigate constant pressure isobaric, constant volume isochoric, and constant temperature isothermal process. You can add or remove 400 joules of heat with any of this process. So here we can add or remove heat energy and see what happens to the gas itself. Right. So now here we can see the volume is same. The volume is gets decreased, right? The volume from 2 liters to 0.7 liters. Here in pressure 400 kilopascal to 543 kilopascal. So pressure gets increased and volume gets decreased. So also you can see the representation of this figure. So initially the volume is 2 liters, pressure inside the chamber is 400 kilopascal. So now we can see. So these are all the changes happening in the thermodynamic processes. By these representations, by these graphical representations, you can easily understand what are the thermodynamic processes. What are the changes in the properties? These are the properties. Volume is a property, pressure is a property, temperature is a property. So what are the changes in the properties can happen in the thermodynamic processes, right? So and see what happens to the gas itself, the surrounding path of the PV diagram, and also impact of the various parameters. So you can easily understand. Note that the purple, this line, purple isotherm of an PV diagram are separated by 200 Kelvin. So this is in temperature difference. Okay, so this is in temperature difference for an isothermal process. So this is an isothermal process. So in the last we discussed isothermal process. We are removing the 400 joules of temperature, heat energy. So there is no change in temperature. So this is 200 Kelvin each. Right. So 200 Kelvin. There is no change in isotherm, temperature isotherm. So if an isothermal process, there is no change in temperature. Right. The gas does no work in constant volume process. Yes, we discussed in constant volume process there is no work. Let me check. For a constant volume process, volume will be constant. See, the heat will be 0 initially, work also 0, internal energy also 0, pressure is 200 kilopascal, volume is 2 liter, and temperature is 400 Kelvin. The internal energy is 600 Kelvin joule. So for an we are adding 400 joules of heat to a constant volume process. What happened? There is no work. For a constant volume process, work will be 0. The gas does no work in a constant volume process. The work done in a constant pressure process or in a constant temperature process is indicated by shaded area below the path of the PV diagram. So we can easily calculate the work. So in this process, say for example, constant pressure process. For a constant pressure process, we can have this red shaded area. So we can have this red shaded area. So work under this curve. So work So the area under the curve can be called as a work of the system, work done of the system. So if you calculate the area under the curve, that will be 160 joule. That will be 160 joule. That was mentioned here. The work done in a constant pressure process or in a constant temperature process is indicated by the shaded area below of the PV diagram. Okay, for a constant temperature, for an isothermal process. So the curve will be like this. So the curve will be like this. So this area under the curve, area under the curve. So we know integration for mathematical calculations to calculate this area under the curve. So if you calculate the area under the curve, we can get the work done. That will be 400 joule. That will be 400 joule. So we can get the work done by calculating the area under the PV diagram. The point you want to notice that. So we can also calculate the work done by a PV diagram by calculating the area under the PV curve. Yes. So this is shaded yet if the work done by the gas is positive. So here we can get a red shaded area. So if you remove in a constant temperature process, this will be blue, right? So if the area under the processes under the curve is in red, that can be known as the work done by the gas is positive. So there is a positive work done, and blue in the blue if the work done by the gas is negative. So here we are reducing the work done. So we can get, so can you see 400 minus 400 joule minus. So here the work done by the gas is negative minus. So by this graphical representation, you can also understand what are the thermodynamic processes. So what is the temperature isothermal process, what is the isobaric process, and isochoric process. So just students, just go through this page. It was already given in your slide. So just you can access the PPT available in our class in Google Meet still. Microsoft Teams. So just click the web page, then go through that. Go through this web page. You can get some more ideas about the thermodynamic processes. Okay. So note that the unit in kilopascal later is a joule. So volume. This work is joule. So the area under the curve has the units of joules, right? So if you want to calculate this area, if we take constant volume process, sorry, constant pressure process. So constant pressure process, the initial pressure is 200 Kelvin. Again, the final pressure also 200 Kelvin. So this is a point. This is one point. This is another point. So we will discuss later what is point function and what is path function. So this is one point, and this is initial process. During initial stage, that is one point function, and after the process, that is one point. So these are some point functions. So this is the path. So the way the points gets traveled from initial point to final point, there are a lot of points connected together to get the final point, right? So how can we get a path? So the connections of the points, connections of infinite points can be get to the path. So points together can be connected to get the path. So we will discuss what is path function and what is point function in later. So point in the sense at the instant of time. At an instant of time, what are all the properties of an system? So say for example, so this is one point. This is one point. So at this point function, so the pressure of the gas is 200 kilopascal, and the temperature of this volume of this system is 2 liters, and there is some temperature. So temperature, this one temperature, this is 400 Kelvin, this is 400 minus 200. So this is 200 Kelvin, this is 400 Kelvin, this is 600, 800, 1000 Kelvin. So these can be defined as properties. So volume is a property, temperature is a property, pressure is a property. At this point, so we have different properties. So this is a point function. This is one point. So after the process, so here we are exhibiting the process. So say for example, constant will be take the constant temperature process, isothermal process. So isothermal process. So here we are obtaining and another state or another point. So this is the initial point. Here we have P1, V1 and T1. Here we have P2, V2 and T2. The pressure P1 is decreased to P2. Right. So you can understand, right? So here this is on point function, and this is a final point function. Here P1, here P2. We can compare this P1 to P2. So P1 is on point function, P2 is on point function. Here V1 is on point function, here V2 is on point function. Also we have T1, T2 will be same because the same isotherm. There will be a 400 Kelvin alone. So there is no change in temperature in an isothermal process. So these are the properties of a point function. So at the initial stage, the P1, V1 and T1 will be differ. On the final point, the P1, P2, sorry, P1 is a P2, V2 and T2 will be differ. So this is one point function. This is one point function. The way the points gets traveled is called a path function. Note down, the way the points get traveled from initial stage to final stage. The path was like this. So this is called the path function. This is the path. These are the points and this is the path. Also we can change some more. So we can continue. After this isothermal process, we can have a constant pressure process. So what will happen? The constant pressure process from point 2 to point 3. Again, there is a constant pressure. So C. So constant pressure, but there is a change in temperature. The T to T3 is increasing, right? Initially, we have T1, T2, 400 Kelvin, but now we get 441 Kelvin. So we are getting more temperatures here. But pressure is constant. Also, we can add a volume. Temperature gets increased. Temperature also gets increased, but pressure, there is a change in pressure, volume, and temperature, right? So each and every property in an instant of time is called a point function. Say this is a point function, large initial final point function, right? So each and every point at an equilibrium state, you will learn what is equilibrium later. So at an equilibrium state of a system, the property will change, right? So this is the point function. So path traveled by the system is called a path function, right? The path may be constant pressure or constant volume or constant thermal, isothermal, or some other adiabatic process or reversible process, that may be different. So the path, how the from one point to another point happens. From one point to another point happens, that is called a path function. So this all we want to discuss. So students just go through this graphical representation in this page physics.bu.edu. So I was connected with that PPT. So what we discussed is for an isothermal process there will be a change in properties. Also for an isobaric process there will be a change in properties. Also there will be a change in energy, transfer in heat energy and work energy, right? For an isobaric process also there will be a change in properties. So just you have to understand this, what is happening in the thermodynamic processes. For that you have to look at that web page connected to your PowerPoint. So this PowerPoint is available. The web page is available in this PowerPoint. Friends, all of you listening.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
தனியாக பேசிட்டு இருக்க மாதிரி தெரியுதா தம்பி? புரியுதாமா நடத்துறது?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
அதான் சொன்னா இல்லையா, 1 or 2 times அப்படின்னாக்கா ஆட்டோமேட்டிக்கா உனக்கு புரிஞ்சிடும். ஸோ பின்னாடி போக போக உனக்கு ஈஸியா தான் இருக்கும். சரியா? அதனால ஜஸ்ட் ஃபாலோ பண்ணிட்டே வா. பேசிக்ஸ் தான். சரியா? Where we stopped. So you can access this web page physics.bu.edu. Diagram kit and HTML through web page. So just spend some more time in this web page, so we can get some more idea about the thermodynamic processes. In general, we have 3 types of thermodynamic processes: isothermal, isobaric, isobaric process. So this is the constant processes in thermodynamics that we are using in applications, right? So just spend some more time with this HTML web page, right? Go to the next slide. Temperature, temperature is a function of a property of a system. So though we all have a feel for temperature, in context the thermodynamics temperature is technical term with a deep meaning. So normally in general we are using temperature, but in thermodynamic temperature it's different. It's a technical term. So we will look at that. What is that? As we know, the temperature is a measure of the intensity of heat. As we know, the temperature is an intensity of heat. Heat flows from your body at higher temperature to one at lower temperature. Yes, in general we know. So the heat will transfer. The heat will transfer from a higher temperature to a lower temperature, right? So if an hot object has more temperature, that will try to move from hotter object to colder object, right? Like pressure is a measure of the intensity of a force applied by matter. So this is in mechanical terms. So we know what is pressure. So force is applied by a matter, flows from a region of higher pressure to a lower pressure. So the higher pressure will try to move to the lower pressure. So like that, we assumed heat temperature also intensity of a heat that will flows from a body at a higher temperature to a lower temperature. So this was our assumption, but that implies if I connect to a bodies A, one weighing 100 kg, assume this one, 100 kg of an object at a 10 degrees Celsius, and the other one B weighing 1 kg at 500 degrees Celsius. Just you can assume this figure. You can assume this figure. This figure A, this object A has more mass, 100 kg, and temperature is only 10 degrees Celsius. But assume this figure B, mass is less, only 1 kg, but temperature is 500 degrees Celsius. Then the heat will flow from the hotter body to the colder body, right? So here is 500 degrees Celsius, but the size of the object is less. But here the size of the object is more, even though the heat is transferring, because the object B has more temperature compared with the object A. So here there is a heat flows. The weight of or volume of the body does not matter, right? For thermodynamic process, we no need to bother about the weight and volume of the body. So it will transfer, it will flow from hotter object to cold object, right? It will flow from hotter, which one has a high temperature, to low temperature, right? But temperature comes into in two important technical contexts in thermodynamics, right? It is a measure of an average kinetic energy. It's an average kinetic energy of the constituent entities, the same molecules. So you know what each molecule, this object is made up of infinite of molecules, right? So average, right? Average kinetic energy is considered in this macroscopic approach, right? So it is the parameters, the function. It is the parameter which determines the distribution of a species across the same molecules. So species in the sense molecules. So this is the parameter which determines the distributions of molecules across various energy states available. So we have lots of energy states. That is one point to another point. That's point to another point. From point 3 to point 4, point 4 to point 5. We can have various energy states. So here we can have the point functions. So we have various energy states available. So so each and every state, the temperature will be different, right? So at instant we have to know the temperature is an average kinetic energy of the molecules. Also, the parameters determines the distributions of molecules across the various energy states. It is called temperature. So we can drive these two important technical points in thermodynamics. So just consider the microscopic approach. Microscopic changes in the molecules, in the temperature changes. Then temperature as a parameter determining the distribution of phases across energy levels can be assumed. Let us consider various energy levels available for molecules in a system to be promoted to. At low temperatures, the lower energy levels are expected to be populated more as compared to higher energy levels. Yes, at lower temperature, the lower energy levels are expected to populate more, right? So the lower energy level at low temperature will try to move to a higher energy level, right? In physics, the lower energy, the energy transfer will happen. So lower energy level to higher energy level will happen. So like that, here also in thermodynamic temperature also will try to move from lower energy level to higher energy level. As we heat the system, more and more molecules will be promoted to higher energy level. Why the temperature gets increased? Because of the molecules inside the system gets heat of the system and try to try to promote more and more molecules to the higher energy level. Just from lower energy level to higher energy level, the molecules inside the system gets promoting. So that's why the temperature gets increasing in the system. So then these are some few points about temperature scales and their properties. So Celsius, Fahrenheit, etc. are 11 scales of temperature, and 0 of these scales do not have a fundamental significance. Right? So we can have lots of temperature scales, say Celsius, degree Celsius, and degree Fahrenheit, but Kelvin scale is an absolute scale. 0 Kelvin and temperature below are not obtainable in a classical sense. So this is a final stage. Kelvin, 0 Kelvin is a final stage. Beyond that, we can't get we can't have the temperatures. So this Kelvin scale is an absolute scale. Just that's why in our calculations people will use this Kelvin. So in general, we are using degree Celsius for an identification of temperature, but for calculations, the Kelvin scale, degree Kelvin will be used for calculations because of this one. So Kelvin scale is an absolute scale. So classically, at 0 Kelvin, a perfect crystalline system has 0 entropy. So we will look at what is entropy later. So at 0 Kelvin, perfect crystalline system has 0 entropy. The system attains its minimum entropy state. Entropy means there is heat transfer. However, in some cases, there could be some residual entropy due to degeneracy of states. This requires a statistical viewpoint of entropy. So after your understanding of entropy, you can understand this point. So 0 Kelvin is a perfect crystalline system of the system, crystalline system, right? So 0 Kelvin, beyond this, before this 0 Kelvin, there is no system possible. This is a perfect crystalline system. At 0 Kelvin, the kinetic energy of the system is not 0. At 0 Kelvin, there is no kinetic energy of the system is not 0, but there is some kinetic energy available. There exists some 0 point energy. So that people will call this as an 0 point energy. Just go through this point about the temperatures. So we can have lots of scales for temperatures, but Kelvin scale is an absolute scale. At 0 Kelvin, there is no classical sense obtainable. At 0 Kelvin, perfect crystalline system has 0 entropy. There is entropy is 0. That is S is 0. At 0 Kelvin, the kinetic energy of the system is not 0. There exists some 0 points. There will be some 0 points available. Just to go through this. And another function, pressure. Another property, pressure. Right, pressure is force per unit area in general, usually exerted by a field on a wall. So you know what is pressure. Just you may study it in your physics. So what is pressure? So pressure is a force per unit area. It is a momentum transfer per unit area per unit time. Also, we can have this pressure as momentum transfer per unit area per unit time. So pressure is related to momentum, while temperature is related to kinetic energy. So pressure can be related to momentum and temperature can be related to kinetic energy of a system. So we can see this one. Normal pressure is also referred to a hydrostatic pressure. So you know we can compare this normal pressure and hydrostatic pressure. Other agents causing pressure could be radiant macroscopic objects impinging on a wall. So how can a pressure get gets involved. So see, on a flat wall by a molecules of a gas, these molecules will try to impinge the areas of the wall. Then in the case of gas molecules, it is average momentum transferred per unit area per unit time on the flat wall. Then we can get the pressure. So the impinging of the molecules in the walls will give you the pressure. So pressure is equal to momentum transfer per area per time. So if you increase the area, we can decrease the pressure. If you decrease the area, we can increase the pressure. So there will be a relationship with the pressure with the area and time. So just in general, we have pressure equal to momentum transferred by the molecules, right? Momentum transferred by the molecules in a constant area and constant time, right? So this is in graphical representation. This is the wall of container. This is the molecules. So crude schematic of a particles impinging on a wall can be looked at like this. So these molecules will try to impinge the wall. These molecules. So because of this one, we are getting the pressure. So this is a, once again I am repeating the graphical representation. So this is the molecules of the systems. This will try to impinge the walls. Each and every molecules will impinge, right? In that previous thermodynamic processes also, we can be able to see that impinging of molecules over the walls. So because of that only the pressure can happen. Pressure is an important property of the system. The temperature also an important property of the system. Then pressure is also an important property. Right. Then what is heat and what is work? So we can't say heat and work separately. So we have to learn together the heat and work, because work is mechanics in displacement against a resisting force. You know what is the definition of work? So work is equal to force into displacement. Force into displacement. So work in mechanics. This is the mechanical explanation about work. Is displacement against resisting force. So work can be calculated by the formula work is equal to force into displacement. D in the sense displacement. So by giving some force to the system, how much displacement it can move, it is called, and that can be calculated as a work. Work has units energy. Work has units of energy. So work and energy has the same units, joule. So the unit of work also joule. The unit of the energy also joule. So just be in mind the units. So units is important in this thermodynamics subject. So just to try to keep the units of the important terms that we are using thermodynamics in your mind, right? So unit of joule, unit of our work and energy is joule or kilojoule or megajoule. That may be different. So joule in general, we have joule. So work can be calculated as work is equal to force into displacement, right? Work can be an expression. Work can be expansion work. P into P del V. It's expansion work. Electrical work, magnetic work. So these are some kinds of works available. So we can have expansion work, that is by the use of temperature, thermodynamics. The thermodynamics work is called as expansion work, and we can have electrical work and magnetic work. So these are some kinds of work available. Then heat. Heat as used in thermodynamics is a tricky term. So heat is a tricky term as we discussed temperature. So heat, yes, it is a very technical term as used in thermodynamics. because the transfer of energy as a result of temperature differences is called heat. So how can we classify the heat? Sorry, how can we state heat? The transfer of energy, right? How can we transfer the energy? Result of a temperature difference. So from one temperature to another temperature. How it obtained from one temperature to another obtained can be calculated as a heat. The transfer of energy. Here, the transfer of heat energy is called heat. In thermodynamics, heat is not an entity or even a form of energy. So there is no entity of an in thermodynamics. Also, we can't consider this as an energy. Heat is a mode of transfer of energy, right? This is not a final product. This is not a finished stage, right? So heat is the mode of transfer. It will under transfer, so under transit. So heat is a mode of transfer of energy, right? So to give an example, so to understand this points, we can have this example. Assume that you start a rumor that there is a lot of gold under the classroom floor. This rumor may spread when persons talk to each other. The spread of rumor with time may be treated mathematically by equations which have a form similar to the diffusion equations or heat transfer equation. This does not make rumor true yet. So you can refer this author Four Laws of Dry the Universe, so by Peter Albins. So this in this journal we can refer this the example expansion, right? So heat is a transfer of energy. Transfer of energy, right? Heat is a transfer of energy by virtue of temperature difference. So this is another viewpoint. So heat is a transfer of energy by virtue of temperature difference. So how the transfer of energy happens? By the temperature difference. So we have a lower temperature, we can have higher temperature. The change in difference or temperature difference can be called as a transfer of energy. Then heat is the name of a process, not the name of an entity, right? This is a process, transfer of energy. They are transferring from lower temperature to higher temperature. So this is process. So this is not a final entity, right? Then the bodies contain internal energy and not heat. So we can consider this heat as an internal energy. So this is not a heat. Okay, so this is an energy. It is an energy transfer, right? The flow of energy down a temperature gradient can be treated mathematically by considering heat as a massless fluid. This does not make a heat a fluid. So the expansion work. How can we expand and how the energy can be calculated in this? Heat energy can be calculated in this. So you can see this. Starting. Right. I've seen this one. How can we expansion? How can we get the expansion? So the compressed air, the volume is less, and the pressure inside the system is more. Then after expansion, the pressure is decreasing, and the volume is increasing. The volume is increasing. So also there will be a chances in flow of a transfer of energy. That is in the sense of heat energy. So that also can be included in this expansion work. So the expansion work can be calculated by P into del V. Del V is change in small volumes of the pressure. So here we are changing the volume, but we are keeping the pressure constant. If we keep the pressure constant, there will be a heat transfer of energy. So that is called as an expansion work. That is like work in general, but there is a heat transfer. How the heat work is happened because of the heat transfer of energy happen in this expansion process. So work and heat both together are interlinked. So how this expansion work happen because of this heat transfer of energy. So just to keep in mind, so heat and work will join together to do a work in a system. Then work is coordinated flow of matter. So also we can define work as a flow of matter. Lowering of weight can do work. Motion of piston can do work. So these can do work. So lowering of weight. How can we do work? By lowering a weight from a higher position to if you do your work by the piston cylinder arrangement. So lowering of a weight can do your work. Motion of the piston can do your work. Motion, that is movement of the piston, can do your work. Flow of electrons in conductor can do your work. So these are the kinds of doing work. So flow of matter can be achieved by lowering of the weight, motion of piston, flow of electrons in a conductor. Okay, so these are the principles of work. Then heat involves random motion of matter. So no molecules are the constituent entities of matters. Molecules. So how can we get heat? So like gas molecules in a gas cylinder. So we can achieve the gas molecules in a cylinder to transfer heats. Water molecules in a cup of water also we can get the heats. Then atoms vibrating in a block of copper. Each and every molecules will vibrate, right? So copper also you can get heat energy. I can have random of motion of matters. So this random motion of matters will give you the heat. Right? So the energy may enter the system as heat or work. Right? The energy entering. We discussed in what is closed system, what is open system, and what is isolated system. Right? So in that there is a change in energy. That change in energy may be heat energy or maybe work energy. Once inside the system, it does not matter how the energy entered the system. The work and heat are terms associated with the surroundings, and once inside the system, there is no memory of how the input was received, and the energy is stored as potential energy and kinetic energy. Right. So these are the terms involved in energy. So there is an let's say potential energy and kinetic energy. Due to the motion, there will be a kinetic energy. Due to the gravitational acceleration due to gravity, there is some potential energy. Right. So both together, kinetic energy and potential energy will give you the whole energy E. So this energy can be withdrawn as work or heat from the system. So energy may be heat energy or maybe work energy. So that's why we have to know both heat and work together. Right. So these are the terms that we are using in thermodynamics processes: work and heat, transfer of work and transfer of heat. So you know about what is isothermal process, isochoric process, and baric process. Then another process is reversible process. So reversible is a technical term like many others in the context of thermodynamics. So you can't understand just like that. Our general reversible. So its meaning will be same. Reversible in the sense going back, the reverse. Reversible process. So here the process gets reversed. That may be different path. That may be follow different path. The path may be the same path from the forward motion, or it can be a different path from the previous process. So this is the process. What is the reversible process? Can we look at that? So reversible process. A reversible process is one where an infinitesimal change in the conditions of the surroundings leads to a reversal of the process. Okay, so there is a infinite changes in the conditions of the surroundings, right? That will lead to a reversal from if the system from go point 1 to point 2, again it will try to come back to its original position. Okay, one example, and rubber will try to elastic material, right? So it will try to come back to its original position. Like that, the process, if the process gets reversed, that is called as a reversible process. How it happens? The system is very close to equilibrium, and infinite changes can restore the system and surroundings to the original state. Okay, so by the infinite equilibrium stages, by the crossing of infinite equilibrium stages, equilibrium in the sense there is no change in chemical equilibrium, mechanical equilibrium, and thermal equilibrium. So equilibrium in the sense there is no changes happens. There is no changes happens. So mechanical equilibrium in the sense there is no mechanical forces changing. Then what is thermal equilibrium in the sense there is no temperature changes happens. What is chemical equilibrium in the sense there is no chemical reactions happens in the system. So that is called the equilibrium. Equilibrium in the sense ideal position. Equilibrium in the sense ideal position, that may be mechanical, that may be thermal, or that may be in chemical. So these three equilibriums will combine together to give you a thermodynamic equilibrium. Right. This is a 2-mark question. What is thermodynamic equilibrium? So if a system is mechanical equilibrium, follows mechanical equilibrium, thermal equilibrium, and chemical equilibrium, that the system can be called considered as a thermodynamic equilibrium. So the systems follow both all these three equilibriums. So equilibrium means the rest of state. It's an ideal position, right? So we have thermal, mechanical, and chemical equilibriums joined together to give you a thermodynamic equilibrium. So under this equilibrium condition, there is a infinite changes to restore the systems and surroundings to the original state. So after some process, it will try to come back. It is an infinite process. It is an infinite process for a long span of time. For a long span of time, it will try to come back to its original position. That is called can restore the system and surroundings. So that's why it will come back to its original position. Say foreign process P1 gets increased to P2, P1 gets increased to T2, and V1 gets increased to V2. So if you keep the systems for a long time, it will try to come back to its original stage. The path may be different. But the initial stage and the final stage is the same. It means there is a reversible process. Right. We will go forward. If a block time achama. Right.
Yes, sir.
Yes, 5 more minutes more. Wait, we conclude this one. Right. If a block of material is a constant with the surrounding, then heat will flow right into the surroundings. So If a system has a higher temperature, this temperature will try to move to the surrounding. Now, if the temperature of the surrounding is increased, then the direction of the heat will be reversed. If what will happen if the surrounding of the temperature gets increased, it will come back to its original place. The system will try to add the temperatures. So, if the temperature of the system is increased more, it will try to move to the surrounding. If we increase the temperature of the surrounding, the system will gain the heat energy, right? So this is an reversible process. If a block of material at 40 degrees Celsius is constant with the surrounding at 80 degrees Celsius, then the heat transfer with the take place is not reversible, right? So the system is 40 degrees Celsius and surrounding is 80 degrees Celsius. There will be heat transfer, but we can't take this as a reversible process. Though the above example uses temperature differences to illustrate the point, the situation with other stimuli like pressure also identical pressure differences. So here we are considering only the temperature. Also some other parameters like pressure and temperature, pressure and volumes available. So we have to consider this one. Consider a piston with gas in a pressure P. If the external pressure is added, then the gas will be compressed slightly. So this is an example. So consider a piston. Right. Consider a piston with the gas in its pressure P. So this has some pressure. This is not a pressure. Assume this one. So a piston has its pressure P. If the external pressure is added, then the gas piston will compress slightly. So then there is reverse pressure will occur if the external surrounding pressure is slightly lower. So again it will try to come back to its original position. That is called a reversible process. So the maximum work will be done if the compression or expansion is carried out in the reversible manner. So we can get the maximum work by doing this reversible process. We can get what is compression, what is expansion. So by this reversible compression and expansion process only, we can get the maximum work. So how the work can be converted in the process of compression and expansion, we'll look at that in later in the next classes. Just understand this, what is reversible process. So we can have a point function from point 1 to point 2. We can have the path process. Then after some long time, if the process can be reversed, means that is called a reversible process, right? So I'm stopping here. So we will look at that in details in the next classes. Thank you. Do you have any queries? You can. I think it's time up. Just student, if you have any queries, means just you can wait here, or you can hang up. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir.